most people would know me from America's Got Talent. I had been doing comedy 13 years before I got on that show. I was 13 years in when AGT said yes for me to go there. That's a long time. When you're in your early 20s, it's kind of sexy to be a starving artist who's just, sleeping in his car and following his dreams. I was 35 when I got AGT. It's not very sexy. It's kind of sad when you're 35 and still, sleeping in your car because you can't afford a hotel. I'm a huge video game guy. Love video games. One of my favorite things in the world. If I was creating a character for myself, this would not have been the template. I would not have chosen this, I could be mad about it, and sometimes I am mad about it. No matter how pissed off I get, I don't wake up with hands tomorrow. I use this quote a lot, and I used it on AGT. My version of that is, I'm glad I was too stupid to quit.
Today's guest is someone who turned what the world might call a limitation into a punchline, a platform, and a powerful reminder that confidence can be louder than circumstance. Ryan Niemiller, who is known online as Cripple Threat on Instagram, is a stand-up comedian who was born with a disability in both arms and built his career by using humor to challenge perception, break tension, and make audiences laugh. He gained national recognition as a third-place finalist on America's Got Talent Season 14, where his first sharp storytelling, fearless self-awareness, and unforgettable stage presence helped introduce his comedy to millions. But Ryan's story is bigger than comedy. He represents what it looks like to own it before the world gets the chance to define it for you. Through stand-up, touring, and his online presence, he has created a voice that is bold, hilarious, and honest, proving that sometimes the very thing people notice first can become the thing that opens doors, builds connection, and inspires others. Welcome to Become the Victor, where we don't just talk about what someone went through, we talk about who they became because of it. Please welcome Ryan Niemiller.
Man, that was too much, man. I'm used to doing comedy where like my intro is just like, and now go to the stage, this dude. So that was nice. If you have like 20, 30 more minutes of praise, I would be happy to sit back and let you do that.
Absolutely. That's gonna be noted. That's gonna be noted for my next guest.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, for your next guest, keep talking about me in their
I
intro
love
as
it.
well.
I do a continuation.
Exactly. How are you, my friend? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you, brother. So great to have you. And yeah, man. So for anyone who is coming across your story and coming across who you are for the first time, what is your story?
Man, what a wide question that is.
I know how broad it is, right?
I know that. Yeah, and almost said in the way where it's like, yeah, what's your deal? Almost combative. I like that. This is how we're getting started. You had to counteract praising me so much. Yeah. So for anyone who might not know me, I am a stand-up comedian. That's what I've been doing for almost 20 years now. It'll be 20 in October. I don't know when you put this up. We're not live streaming,
Yeah.
so I assume soon.
Yeah. It's
So
definitely gonna be the first week of June.
okay, perfect. Yeah. So I've been doing this about 20 years. Um, Most people would know me from America's Got Talent. I think that's where you said that you first saw me.
Yeah.
Which is it's a very strange, not strange in like a bad way, but I had been doing comedy 13 years before I got on that show.
Wow.
And it's one of those things for like a lot of people, they think like, oh, you just popped up. This guy came out of nowhere. And it's like, no, I had done years of dive bars in the middle of Iowa where they don't know it's comedy night, like stuff like that. So I'd really been grinding, and it's really cool to like have had AGT happen how it did, and that's what kind of lets me tell my story to more people, which is awesome because man, when you grind for that long and it's going okay, which I'm saying very generously, it's uh when I got AGT, I was technically paying my bills with comedy,
Yeah.
but I was like, a couple canceled gigs away from having to call my brother to borrow rent money. It was like that kind of just on the cusp,
Yeah.
and then just kind of grinding, and then getting that platform was amazing. So that's that we'll do the general version first. I'm sure we'll get into the weeds
Yeah.
as we
Dude,
talk
that
here.
that is That is awesome. So like you started comedy. So before we get into like the whole comedy thing and everything, and if any of these questions are you don't want to touch going too in depth with, please let me know as well.
No,
But
you'll just hear me loudly cry. If it if it's too much, you'll just hear a wail come out of me, and you know
you're
to
just
move
gonna cut
on.
off mid conversation.
Exactly,
Be like, okay,
exactly.
that's my cue.
Yeah.
But yeah, brother. So before comedy and before America's Got Talent, before all of this, what kind of how did you go from, you have this deformity, right? And growing up, what kind of helped you develop that confidence or to develop that sense of humor to help you navigate your disability?
Part of it was just natural, which is like I never want to say that and make it sound like arrogant or cocky. I do think that all people are born with, inherently things they're good at and things they're not good at.
Yeah,
And you can learn how to get good at things, and you can not foster your gift and be bad at things you should be good at. But I think, at least at a base point, there's certain things that people just have. And one of the things I naturally had, because I grew up in a real small town. My hometown is DeMott, Indiana, maybe 3,000 people, just a little farming town.
wow,
For reference, my high school was in a town called Wheatfield, if that
wow.
gives you any
An
idea of
idea.
the type of area where I grew up.
Yeah.
And not a whole lot of people who looked like me.
Mhm.
There just wasn't that. So that is always a recipe for disaster. Like that could have been terrible.
Yeah.
Small towns are what they are to begin with, but just growing up and being a kid is hard. And if the group kind of decides that you have something that's different, whether it's fair or not, they can latch onto that and then make your life hell, and that be the thing.
Yeah.
But and part of it was just natural. Think I was just quicker than the other kids,
Mhm.
because like when people will ask me like, "Oh, did you get bullied?" I really didn't. At no more than kind of like the normal acceptable amount of bullying, if there's such a
Yeah.
thing.
Like
Everyone gets
little
teased.
jabs here and there.
Exactly, everyone gets teased a little bit.
Yeah.
But for my arms, I never, because I kind of was able to show pretty quick that I was better at making the jokes about myself, and I could bust their balls. And I never tried to do it mean spirited if I could help it,
Yeah.
because like that's not who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
But like I was always I could give it right back, and then I think at a certain point people were just like, "Oh, this guy's funny. He's cool. We like him." I really didn't experience any of the, and I don't want to claim that like growing up with a disability was easy.
Yeah.
I think that's a misconception. I think that happens when you see someone, like me, like you, like people that have a platform. They see us at our most confident, so
Yeah.
they assume like, oh man, they figured it out. Nothing bothers them,
Yeah.
dude. Multiple times a day, I'm mad at my hands. Because I always put it in this context. Here's how I describe it. I'm a huge video game guy. Love video games. One of my favorite things in the world. If I was creating a character for myself, this would not have been the template. I would not have chosen this, you know? And I think that's the thing that's hard for people to understand sometimes. Is like making the best of something does not necessarily mean that's what you would have chosen. I don't think people with disabilities would have chosen disabilities, but it is what it is. There's I sort of tried to figure out this sense of, like I could be mad about it, and sometimes I am mad about it, but no matter how pissed off I get, I don't wake up with hands tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just not how the world works, and you can argue the merits of whether that's fair or not. That's a whole different story, but no matter how sad or depressed about it I get, that doesn't make hands grow if I get sad enough.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out what to do. And as a kid, it was easier for me because kids are dumb. They just, I have a 3-year-old right now who I love, and he's smart for a 3-year-old, but until you
Yeah.
learn the world, all kids are dumb. That's just how kids work. Um, but then I didn't really. start feeling that kind of like struggle until I was old enough to be out in the real world,
Hmm.
when you're like, oh, people don't want to hire me because of my disability. Girls aren't interested in me because of my disability.
Yeah.
I'm more aware now when people are giving me weird looks or offering me help that I didn't ask for. So my 20s was really rough, because I got like really depressed. Like I had a really rough time because now just being witty wasn't enough. Like in certain individual situations, like, oh yeah, I'm fine. No one's saying, hey, you got short arms, you look weird.
Yeah.
But that doesn't help me pay the bills if you're not going to hire me. That doesn't make me feel alone if someone's not going to date me. And then, it also made me the worst version of myself then, because then I became a person, personality wise, that people wouldn't want to hire or that women wouldn't want to date. Because then I got angry and I was mad and I misdirected that in the wrong direction. So yeah, that was a long way to say, kind of long-winded way to say that there's multitudes to this, man. There's levels, and even today, where my career's going well, I have a wonderful wife. I have a mean but fun son who I love very much, but I still have my days, it's still rough.
Absolutely. Like to put it simply is just because someone carries it well doesn't mean that it's not easy, right? Or that it's
Right.
easy,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I'm very curious as well. So you navigated this journey, and like you said, you kind of have these days, like even till now, you wake up and you get flustered, right? With the circumstance. What helps you navigate those processes?
uh Trying to ground myself, and as this is stuff I used to always hate hearing, but getting on Zoloft I think helped to where my brain was ready to hear it now.
Yeah.
um is trying to remember the good stuff, um because people, I think it's unhealthy, at least it was for me, when people try to, like, they would always say that, just remember the good stuff, remember it could be worse, remember it could be worse.
Yeah.
Well, having two broken, just because someone has two broken legs doesn't mean that my one broken leg doesn't hurt. That's kind of how I always thought about that. So I felt it was very condescending. But I've learned to sort of ground myself a little bit, because, those days where you're like, okay, this person's not booking me because they think I'm a novelty act. Or I got some weird interactions where people went way over the top to help me in public and basically embarrassed me in front of a group of people.
Hmm.
Um, I just try to remember, uh my kind of mantra that I've picked up over the last few years that's really helped me is that, like, at the end of the day, my wife loves me, my son loves me, my mom loves me, my dog loves me.
Yeah.
Everything else is bonus
Yeah.
at that point. Like, at the end of the day, if I have that, I'm good. And some days that's harder than others. You know how it is. Some days it's a minor inconvenience if someone trying to carry your tray to your table when you didn't ask it. And sometimes it's getting treated like you're the most, helpless human being that's ever lived.
Yeah.
Those are rough days, but at the end of the day, I just try to remember I'm here, and there's a lot of great things in my life. I have all my family, my nerd pros things that I love. I got my video games and my sports cards and my and
Yeah.
my sports and wrestling and all that. So I try to just focus on that stuff, and so far so good. It's I'm still here.
That's awesome, brother. I have an interesting thought as well. I don't know if you ever even thought about it this way. You might have, but have you ever thought about if you didn't have this deformity, do you think you would still be a comedian as you are, or do you think your disability kind of helped bring out your sense of humor?
It's one of those things. It's impossible to say one way or the other. It's
Right.
just because the circumstances are what they are.
Yeah.
But like, I think I don't know if I would do this as a job. It's hard to say, because I think had I not had the disability, I might have been afforded other opportunities, right out of college or whatever, where I, you know, I don't want to say it's easy because like obviously trying to chase a dream in the arts it's madness. It's it's a very difficult thing to do for everybody, but it was a lot easier to chase that dream when I felt that my options were that or work at Walmart, that or work at Target. That, those are the kind of jobs I was doing. So it's a lot easier to be like, oh, I'm not going to sit in that. You get a nice, $200,000 a year office job. It's a little, like I know the answer a lot of people want to hear in this is like, no, I would have chased this no matter what. I grew up I didn't have a bed till I was 18 years old and went to college. Like I grew up dirt poor. Had I got an opportunity where, oh, by the way, here's a six-figure job where you're an accountant. I don't know, it's hard to say, because those circumstances matter too.
Yeah.
But uh I mean I do think I still would have been funny though, because my act, I can do an hour and never talk about my disability once and still do well.
Mhm.
But I talk about my disability because it's part of who I am.
Right.
It's not a gimmick. It's not a thing that I made up so that I could be this character. It's literally my life.
Yeah.
And it's hard to separate that. But I do think it definitely helped because humor is a really good self-defense mechanism when
Mhm.
you're growing up and doing that, and it's a good way to deflect. And I'm just, I'm thankful that I'm good enough at it where I've been able to turn it into a career as well.
When you were like, now I want to slowly transition into your career here, is when you were going through all of these hardships and trialing times within your life, right? What, when do you think there was this moment where you actually realized I can actually turn this into a career? Like you said, before AGT, you actually were doing stand-up before.
Right. I honestly, I thought I could turn performing into a career well before I even started. I don't know why. It's a very strange thing for me to explain because generally speaking, in my life, I am not a very confident person. I and part of it was circumstance, but uh, you know, I got my brain to convince myself that I wasn't good enough to get those jobs, or I wasn't good enough to, I was always like, I'll never find anybody, I'll never get a good job, I'll never get all this, like that's just how my brain was wired. But for some reason with performing, I was like, yeah, I'll be a star one day. Like for I don't know why that kind of clicked in my head that was gonna happen. I don't know if it was spite. I don't know if that was how I felt like was my way of being like, well, screw all of you. If you're not
Yeah.
gonna give me a job, I'll do this. Spite's a really powerful motivator if you use it properly.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's kind of a situation where, I'm 16, 17 years old in high school, and people would gather around me as I was telling stories and stuff like that. Uh, it sort of clicked there. Now, I honestly thought my path was going to be pro wrestler because that was my first performance love. That's where the Cripple Threat name came from. That was going to be a wrestling name. It had nothing to
Wow.
do with comedy at that point when I first thought of the name. Uh, yeah, I thought that would be the path, and that was just too hard on my back. I trained for a couple months in my 20s, and just my back couldn't take it. That's a totally different conversation about the merits of pro wrestling as a scripted or real advocation.
Mhm.
But uh, yeah, like I just I've always had that knack. Like I don't know what it was, and again, you never know what the level of success is going to be. You can't predict that you're going to be, Gabriel Iglesias and be selling out Dodger Stadium, or like there's different levels to it. But for how many people try to do this, I'm successful. Now, I'm not the most famous human being on the planet, and that's totally fine. That's not that's not requirement, but I can pay my bills with this. And people, like wonderful people like you pop up and actually want to interview me. I didn't have to beg you for this, and that's like it's a cool thing, you don't
Yeah.
it gives you that little bit of confidence that I often lack in my life. So yeah, I don't know what it was, but even when I started, like I'm not gonna say I always did great every time I went up on stage because that's just impossible. You have to learn the craft.
Yeah.
But my first set I ever did in front of people, I got mostly laughs. Like it went great. There's just like so sometimes that just works, you know. And obviously I had to get better and do a lot of stuff, but you know, had I bombed that first time, I might have went, I don't know, this this isn't for me, but it went well, you know. So like I said, there's, you know, I was convinced at one point, 100% seriously, that I was going to be a huge star, and I was also going to die alone. Like those two things were like definitely fighting against each other, but comedy has always kind of been a safe place for my mental health for whatever reason. Like I feel really confident on stage. I feel like that's home. I feel like I can control that.
Yeah.
And, you know, the real world is a lot harder to control than a crowd of a few hundred people in a comedy club.
Absolutely. It's so fascinating to like here you are, you have this disability, right? And I find it remarkable. I mean, this is just from someone has a disability to another, right? It's you literally have this disability and you navigate these seasons that you share openly and to the public, and even there's so much beneath it that you probably don't even talk about, right? And and here you are, you find this gift, which is for you, it's comedy, right? It's your sense of humor. It's sharing your story in a way that makes audiences laugh, right? You connect with these individuals to discover your gift and to now be doing the things that you are doing. What do you think what are you most proud of because of this entire process of you?
Um, not to get too like, you know, artsy fartsy or too, you know, like, because this is isn't who I am as a person, but like that I'm still here.
Yeah.
Like as kind of corny as that can sound, because I'm always wary of talking like that because I mean you know this probably firsthand as well. People with disabilities are supposed to be inspirational. That's how we're looked at. It's the not a lot of people know this term outside of the community, but it's called inspiration porn. Where that is how, you know, like our role in society for a lot of people is to inspire able-bodied people to get their shit together. Like that's the we're not supposed to have joy and things that we want for ourselves. We're not ever supposed to have rough days.
Yeah.
We're supposed to power through so that people who don't have disabilities can go, man, well, if Ryan can do it, like it's so condescending, it's so belittling. But that's just how people with disabilities are often treated. Like that's how, look at any media, it's finally starting to get better now, but like even that's not great.
Yeah.
Man, when I did AGT, like I was fortunate enough that they kind of let me tell my own story because, you know, I'm a professional storyteller basically. So they didn't really have to help craft anything. But I was on the season with Cody Lee. And for anyone who's not familiar with Cody Lee, also an individual with a disability, he ended up winning the season, but he is blind and autistic. So he can't communicate the same way. He can't tell his story the same way. And they fixed it after the first thing, but his first episode, if you go back and watch his whole thing, when he got the golden buzzer and all that, his story, how they presented it was, man, is he so handicapped. Dude, he's blind, he's autistic, he'll never live by himself, he can't do anything. But man, that voice is beautiful and inspiring and life-changing. And in fairness, it is.
Yeah.
But like his episode aired before mine, and you don't see the final edit until it actually airs for those taped ones initially. And when I first saw his, I was like, oh no, please don't do that to me. And luckily they didn't for me. But that's, you know, that's kind of how we're like treated. And so like I'm proud of myself that I have powered through all this and fought against the you know, there's the pressure of being a performer with a disability to just fall into those traps of trying to make sure that able-bodied people aren't uncomfortable. Because if you come see my out, even the stuff I did on AGT, which had to be like the really clean version, I'm not doing inspirational. Wow, look at me, I powered through, and this. Man, thank you for fulfilling my make-a-wish of letting me do comedy, and you all have to laugh because you feel guilty. No, I'm talking about the real stuff. I'm talking about how my hand's a sex toy, and and how people with disabilities love sex, and we're not treated that way, and how kids are assholes, and I'm talking about the real stuff that I actually deal with, and I'm proud of myself that I've never lost that. Because especially after AGT, it would have been real easy just to go, okay, and now I'm just a motivational speaker, and I'm only here to to make not rock the boat, never make you feel uncomfortable. And I'm still here, and I've stayed true to myself,
Do that.
for better
That's
or worse.
yeah,
You know?
absolutely. And Cody Lee's story is phenomenal as well. Like incredible voice.
Yeah, yeah.
And
His actual story, because I'm still pretty close with the family. Where I ended up moving, I just ha accidentally lived close to where they live. So,
oh
I still, talk to Tina, his mom, pretty frequently. Not a crazy
yeah,
amount. We're all busy doing our lives, but
right.
we're still friends, and him just being him, and the family just being the family. It's a great story. Like they didn't. It bummed me out a tiny bit for that first episode where it's like you didn't have to play up how quote unquote useless he is. Like he's not. He's very perceptive, and that was the thing. Uh, you can know even if you have a disability, you can still learn. Because and it's why navigating with a disability is so tough because you can't put it in one specific box.
Mhm.
Because I mean, even between me and you, my needs are much different than your needs,
Right.
but we're both just treated as they have a disability. I don't need the same things you do, and you don't need the same things I do. But it's kind of done with this one size fits all mentality. But I learned a lot about autism. I had never, I don't even think this is the right phrasing, but someone who was, severely autistic. I don't think that's the right word, but I
Yeah.
call myself the Cripple Threat, so just bear with me. My heart is pure. The
Y-
words are sometimes there,
Yeah.
but you know, they say it's a spectrum, and that's 100% true, but there's definitely levels to that.
Okay.
And he can't communicate in the same way, but he's not stupid,
Yeah.
and he's not oblivious to what's happening. Like I hadn't seen him for, I don't know, it'd been 4 or 5 years in person. Just because of life and COVID, and I was living in Indiana for a while before I moved out by here and all that. And then we were gonna film something together, and we hadn't seen each other in 5 years. And the second I walked into the room, Ryan Niemiller, like he
Oh,
knew
that's
I was
awesome.
there. So it's like I learned a lot about that too, about how you know I can still learn things about things because I can even fall. Sometimes you get so wrapped up in your own shit where it's like, oh, I can speak to having a limb difference, but I can't speak to every other disability in the same way and all that. So, um, yeah, he definitely should have won that season though. It's I didn't have a chance. The first note that came out of his mouth, I was like, I can get second place. That wouldn't be too bad.
But dude, you made the top three, which is awesome. I want to
Yeah.
touch on your AGT experience now. Did you sign up for yourself, or did someone nominate you to be on the show?
It was sort of myself, so it had been a process. So I actually tried to get on the show for 5 years.
Okay.
Uh, so I had to audition, but I was able to. So there's, not to get too into the weeds about it, but there's different kinds of auditions. So there's the cattle call audition, which is we're gonna be here in Los Angeles at this day at this time, and then you get in that long line and you wait all day, and then you show up and you hope it goes well. But they also have other types of auditions where basically you're doing the same type of audition. There's no guarantees, there's nothing like that, but you get to just show up at a time. So it's basically just a little easier on your schedule. So the first time I did it, I'm good buddies with Taylor Williamson, who got runner up on the show, I think season 10.
Okay.
I got correct. I don't know if I'm 100% right on it. It was one of those seasons where he's a very funny comedian. He got runner up on that. And And basically, he recommended me to them, and they set up a thing. I did horrible during that audition. This is how you know these things aren't rigged in the way that some people think. I had the guy who that they loved, who was just the runner-up. I had all this on my side. I could not have bombed that audition harder than I did. I was it in the long run, it ended up being the best thing for me. Uh, Knowing kind of how the process worked, and when I actually did get to go through it, and I was not emotionally prepared for it. I wasn't a skilled enough performer at the time to get through it. But yeah, but I went to that audition and I was just like, 90 seconds? I can do 90 seconds. I'm doing these 45-minute headlining set. I can cry. I barely prepared. And then like you get into the room. Like I was thinking, in the context of a comedian, there's gonna be, a host that introduced you. I thought they did like kind of like little showcases like that.
Yeah.
And then, there'll be a little crowd of a few people that you can work with. No, you get called in and you're in this giant, like banquet hall or whatever at a hotel or wherever it was. And it's just giant room, and you're standing on what would be a dance floor if they were holding a wedding there. And there's a camera person and a producer, and that's it. And you're just like, this is not what I anticipated. So
How do you go from like you said doing like 45-minute or not auditions but 45-minute skits? Would you call it skits or
sets,
sets?
sets,
When you
yep.
do 45-minute sets to now summarizing everything or narrowing everything down to a minute and a half. How do you do that? How do you know where to begin, how to end it? Like that's a huge difference.
It was tough. It was the I'll speak more to the audition itself in a second, but it was the hardest part of AGT for me. Is because when I do my shows, I'm not going to claim I'm this great orator who's telling these epic tales, but my jokes are done in story form.
Mhm.
If I'm it like I have a lot of stuff about being a dad right now, but I don't look at it as 10-second joke, 15-second joke, 30-second joke, minute long joke. It's here's a 20-minute chunk that I'm telling the story about the ups and downs of being a dad and how he was born and all that. So, but you don't get to do that on AGT. AGT, the longest set I got to do on AGT was 3 minutes.
Mhm.
And the only reason I got to do that long is because they gave me some of the magician time, is how they called it. My finals did not have a magician. The magicians get a little extra time because they have more to set up.
Yeah.
So the only reason I even got to do three is because no magicians made the finals. So they
Wow.
were like, we have a little extra time to play with, so we'll give you an extra, 45 seconds to finish what you want to do.
Wow.
And it was tough because AGT, especially the nature of how that show works, it's so boom, 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 boom. You can't spend 3 minutes telling the story to get one laugh at the end because people will just be like, oh, he sucked because he
Yeah.
didn't get enough laughs. So it has to be laugh, 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 laugh. So, man, I was pulling things from the archives, jokes I hadn't done in years, but I was like, this is kind of short and it fits together. I was writing new stuff to hope to see if it would work and make sense. Um, yeah, it was a huge difference. And just the other things that changed too, like why my first audition I think didn't go very well is that also as a comedian, you sort of learn to be very self-aware of what's happening. If I go to a dive bar in the middle of Iowa to perform for three drunks who don't know it's comedy night, I have to go in with a different energy than if I'm going to a packed theater of 4,000 people who paid specifically to see me, who are huge fans. Like, you can't do the same set the exact same way because the circumstances are different.
It's a different audience.
Exactly. And just the energy's different, the room is different, it's the way the venue is laid out. Like, if you're at a theater, you're not going to be interrupted by the bartender making a mixed drink with their loud blender. That might happen at a bar gig, like that's just, and you have to roll with that. So when I went into the audition, that very first audition, that I did poorly on, I was kind of playing to the fact that like I'm in this big giant room at like 1 p.m. and there's two people in here and one of them's a camera, like so I'm playing to that. And that's not what they want. They
Yeah.
want to see what you're going to look like on TV. That's the way that they're analyzing it. And fortunately, I got more opportunities to come back and try again. And what actually got me on the show, I had almost made it the year before, is what I found out. I was kind of one of the final cuts to actually get to come perform for the judges.
Okay.
And what had changed between that and the season I got on is I filmed a couple years before that. I had done my very first TV performance was for a syndicated show that my buddy Steve Hofstetter did called Laughs, and it aired on Fox. So it was kind of like it was in like 30% of the markets in the US. It was kind of if you I don't know if how much you ever watched like the old like Live at Gotham or anything like that, but it was that type of show where
Okay.
it airs at this time on whatever day, and it's 30 minutes, and there's going to be seven comics featured, and they show like a minute of your stuff or whatever, and it's just boom, boom, boom. So my full set from that, which when we recorded those, we filmed 4 minutes, and then on the show, maybe a minute and a half or whatever got shown. My 4 minute set, once a few years later, once that footage was able to kind of just go out as it was, that set went viral. We got about 3 million views on Facebook.
Wow.
And I basically kind of contacted AGT again. And I was like, hey, so this happened since the last time I talked to you. And it was me doing really well in a viral video for TV. So I had TV energy. And they went, oh, that's what we wanted.
Yeah.
Perfect. Come on in.
Dude,
So
that is so, so cool.
yeah. And had I not just taken the initiative to like, because I thought I was done after failing two or three times. It's tough for your brain not to go, maybe this just isn't for me.
Yeah.
Maybe this is not the avenue I need to go. But I took the initiative and like just contacted them one more time. I was like, you want to take a look at this? And they were like, that's perfect. That's what we want.
Dude, that is awesome.
Yep.
I heard of this thing called or it says the universe always falls in love with a stubborn heart, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
gotta be mindful, what it is you're after, but and that's like you said, at some point you kind of question, okay, should I do this? Is it not for you? Like this and that, and it kind of like worked out. Dude, that was like really cool. And then so you made it into the
Just to kind of echo that point, my version of that to just show kind of what an idiot I am. I use this quote a lot, and I used it on AGT. My version of that is, I'm glad I was too stupid to quit. You know, yours was way more poetic to hear it that way, but I'm like, yeah, I'm too stupid to go just do
like
something
it
else.
just doesn't register like what is quitting? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
because here's the
And
thing,
that's a
it's
good
really hard.
attitude.
It's really hard to explain to people because like sometimes people ask like you know, how should you get into comedy? What should you do to get into comedy? And it's like it's hard to answer because on paper this is a really bad idea.
Yeah.
It's not. There's zero guarantees. It's very volatile. For me to be able to get good at it, I miss so many weddings and birthday parties and holidays because you have to be on the road all the time. Even now, it's tricky to like fit in because for me to make money, I got to go to St. Paul, Minnesota. I have to go to, South Carolina. I got to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I got to go, that's not where my family lives.
Yeah.
That's not where they're at. My wife has a real person job. She can't just go when she wants. So there's all these sacrifices and you're, month to month. Sometimes you have great months. Some months, my May is pretty empty and I don't get a guaranteed salary. If I don't work, I don't get to take sick days. So on paper, doing comedy is a really stupid idea. And I was 13 years in when AGT said yes for me to go there. That's a long time. When you're in your early 20s, it's kind of sexy to be a starving artist who's just, sleeping in his car and following his dreams. I was 35 when I got AGT. It's not very sexy. It's kind of sad when you're 35 and still, sleeping in your car because you can't afford a hotel when
Yeah.
you're doing all these gigs. So, yeah, it's I'm too stupid to quit. That's how I how I do it.
Wow. I know you're on a time crunch, and then so I'm gearing towards the end of the episode here. Is so you made it into top three. Just two more questions before we get into rapid fire questions. So
Sure.
you made it into top three. What was that moment like for you? I know we kind of touched on a little bit where you're like, if anyone would win, you were glad it was Cody Lee. What was it being like being on stage, being top three?
I mean, it's surreal. Like, uh, I never want to like downplay the third place part of it because that's cool,
Yeah,
but for just practical reasons, especially at that time with how the show was structured, if you're a comedian and you make the finals, you're good. You're obviously I wanted to win $1 million. I'm not going to claim that I wasn't trying,
of course.
but but you're a national headliner now because you made the finals of that show. So there was not a whole lot of nervousness. My
Mhm.
nervousness was more the semifinals because you could still, my career was obviously going to be a lot better if I made the semifinals, but I don't even know if they do it anymore. But I was in something called the Duncan Save in the semifinals. The
Yeah.
semifinals was not my best set that I did the whole time. So I got put into like the pool of three, where then that night, the results night, people vote to move on one, and then the judges pick one. So like that was super stressful because like in my head I was like, it's finals or bust. If I don't make the finals, sure, there's benefits to just having the good TV clips or whatever, but you don't become a national headliner because you had a good audition tape. You have to kind of do the run and show that you can sustain. Once I made the finals, man, all the pressure was off. That was just fun. I got to do a lot of the weird jokes I wanted to do. And part of it, not to sound negative, but comedians are usually blessed with good self-awareness.
Mhm.
We all knew Cody Lee was gonna win. Like the only feasible way that Cody would have lost is if for some reason he said like the N word or something. It would have had
Yeah.
to have been something
Something
so
crazy.
so insane
Yeah.
that like you couldn't ignore it. But so for me, and I honestly thought like after I watched everybody's performances, kind of just saw, because I'm a chronically online human being. I grew up in, the early parts of the internet, you know, with forums and all that. I was kind of getting the vibes of like, what people thought of all the auditions and stuff. And I thought I got fourth. That's kind of how I looked at it. There was a couple people who just didn't have the greatest final sets. Fine, that's whatever. Cody was number one. I thought The Unbeatable was going to be number two because they're one of the most amazing acts I've ever seen. If your viewers are not familiar with The Unbeatable, please look them up.
Yeah.
Anything they do is
Crazy.
insane, and,
Yeah.
and all the nicest, sweetest kids ever. Like I loved hanging out with them. Then I thought third was going to be Detroit Youth Choir, just based on the story of what they have. They had this huge voting base. Um, and then I thought I got fourth because I thought I did really. And then I thought Voices of Service got fifth.
Yeah.
And Voices of Service got fifth, and then they kind of obviously do it backwards from there. They have you match up with one person, so you eliminate them, but you really don't. It's just five that didn't make the top five and five who did. So I get in the top five, and I'm like, okay, this is what I think. They announced Voices of Service at five, and I'm like, great, this is totally, that's what it was. And then they announced fourth, and I'm sitting up there, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. I know they do a little interview with you or whatever, so had my kind of couple lines, and then they announced V Unbeatable got fourth, and I'm glad the camera wasn't on me at the time because I think I actually like mouthed the words like "oh shit," like because I was shocked. I just like I thought it was that, and like they were heartbroken, which was super sad. Like I didn't love that part of it, but then in my head, I'm just like. I had a small part in my brain that was like, who knows what's going to happen now? Like, this is a total wild card for what's going to happen. And then I thought at that point I maybe had a chance to be a runner up. I'm actually glad I got third, uh, because when you're third, you get to do a little interview. They ask you how you're feeling, what you're going to do. So I got to say my lines and get a couple more little jokes in. When you're second, it's the very end of the show. They announce Cody Lee wins, and then I just would have had to stand there sad while confetti comes down and everyone's cheering. So third was actually, if I'm not gonna win, third is the perfect spot for that.
Dude, that is awesome, brother. I think like I'm so again, thank you so much for allowing me to interview. It's been really cool to I know I said this before recording, where to literally go from voting for you, right, to now like having you on my own podcast, like it's such a surreal full circle moment for me. I appreciate you doing this. But the last question I ask before we get into the rapid fire questions is what is one question you wish more people asked you, but they don't?
Oh, that's tough. Um, it's kind of in. I don't know that was really tough because like my brain always wants to think of the stuff that I wish people wouldn't do.
Yeah.
You know, like because my brain immediately went to like I wish you would ask me if I actually need help. You know, stuff like that instead of assuming that I can't do things.
Yeah.
Um, honestly, like I want people to ask me more about what I'm passionate about, I guess. And what fuels me. Because like it's very strange to explain because like I love comedy.
Mhm.
Man, I love it so much. It has afforded me so many great experiences. The people that I know and the places I've got to go because of it. My I'm with my wife because of comedy. I have my son because of like all of that kind of flows together.
Yeah.
But I don't need comedy the way a lot of people do. And that can be unpopular to say because like people assume like because I don't take for granted that I'm doing something at a level that a lot of people would kill to do. I do not take for granted what I get to do for a living. And I love it. I sincerely do. But it doesn't there's some comedians, if you talk to them, if you told them they couldn't go on stage again, they would probably kill themselves. And I don't say that lightly, but like I think
Yeah.
their soul is so tied into that, their identity is so tied into being that that they have nothing else if that was taken away.
Yeah.
If my next show is my last show ever, I'm not going to be happy about it, but I'm good. Life will go on. I'm a smart guy. I'll figure something out
Yeah.
because, like I said earlier, my wife loves me, my son loves me, my dog loves me, my mom loves me. That's, I'll figure it out. So it's like, if you like what I'm really super passionate about is my nerd stuff. It's sports. It's like you can probably see how messy it is behind me in my room because I keep trying to clean it. There's like unopened boxes of cards, there's toys, there's video game controllers. Like right in front of me right now, I have just stacks of cards that because like this is all unorganized. I love pro wrestling so much. Video game like that's the stuff that fuels me. I feel that life is better. I have trouble trusting people who, when you ask them, "Hey, what do you do for fun?" If they can't answer you right away, I'm like, "Okay, you're not a complete person." Like, because like I love my job. My job is I have a cool job. But at the end of the day, it's still a job. It's my work. There's things that go along with it
Yeah.
that, you know, booking flights and going to airports and dealing with contracts and how crazy taxes are because I perform in 30 different states every like none of that's fun. It's the job though. People just see the final product. That doesn't excite me. I don't want to talk about the taxes of being an independent contractor or how to set up an LLC. I want to talk about the new 2026 Topps Chrome basketball set that just released this week and how I hope I get a freaking Wemby auto. Like that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that like that is I work hard so that my family is secure and safe and that I can do the nerd shit that I love. I think that's what life is. I because at the comedy will go away. I'm not as red hot as I was right after AGT. Life happened, COVID happened. Like all of this is very fluid. It's sometimes you're going to be the biggest star in the world. Sometimes people will forget you and never buy tickets again. But like all that other stuff that's part of your soul will still be there, you know? I'm still gonna love, Anaheim Ducks hockey and Chicago Cubs baseball, even if no one ever buys tickets again. That's the stuff I feel that more people need to latch on. It's helped make me happier and I think a fuller person too.
Yeah. Like professionally, you love comedy. Personally, there's so much more beneath it as well that you are also passionate about.
Yeah,
And
and I think that also makes me a better comic.
yeah,
I could because I have things I can talk about. There, a lot of comics fall into this trap, especially when they first start. Like if you've been doing it long enough, I think you figure it out. But go to any open mic where it's like, comics in their first 2 years. They all are going to have a ton of jokes about comedy, being a comedian, being a like no regular people don't give a shit about that. That's not relatable in any real way, you know? But what is relatable is you talking about a weird thing that happened in an Uber or an interaction you had with the waiter at a restaurant. People go to restaurants. Not everybody does open mics because it's a weird thing to do. Um, so I think it just also makes you a bigger. I always tell people if they have like writer's block, if they're comedians,
yeah.
go take a class. Go for a hike and just pay attention. Do something that's not this because you don't know where that inspiration will come from. I'm a lazy writer, dude. You know how much comedy I write every day? Zero. I don't sit down and like, okay, here's my hour where I sit with my notebook and I write. I write by just learning to pay attention. I don't recommend doing this just solely for this reason,
Yeah.
but my son was born and within 2 weeks, I had 30 minutes of comedy. I didn't have to sit down and go, okay, what's it? This is my life now. Something happened in my life. I did a new life experience. I have things to talk about now. And it's been great. And as he gets older and meaner and smarter, I have new things to talk about. So, I feel just existing as a human as well makes you just a fuller person.
Yeah. Dude, that was greatly said, brother. And I like how I said too, like sometimes you get those writer's blocks, right? But if you just simply just sit down and observe, like so much inspiration will come to you.
Yeah, and it's so much easier. I know not like and not everyone's brain's wired the same as me, but I feel it's like a cheat code.
Yeah.
I have in 20 years of doing comedy, I can't name a single joke that I could tell you right now that I got from sitting down and writing jokes. From like really just like, okay, what do people think about cats? Or it's every joke I think I've ever told has just been this thing happened and I now thought of a few funny things to talk about that. Tried it on stage, worked out the wording, and then it worked. Like I don't know. It just I'm inherently kind of a lazy guy when it comes to that. I don't want to I don't want to do the hardest version of like trying to write stuff. Just like man, I'm married now, so I can talk about being married. Sweet, that's great.
You're like new storytelling unlocked.
Exactly. Basically, it's great.
Dude, that's awesome, brother. Now I want to get into the rapid fire questions, and there's 7 questions. Some of them are not so rapid fire. And the first one is, before the stage lights and microphones, what was the first moment you realized you could use humor to control the room?
I wish I had like a pinpoint moment of like the first time I got a laugh. I don't have that,
Yeah.
but it was just always kind of just natural as a kid. Like I have no idea why I even knew this was a thing, but when I was in first grade, they did like a little talent show, and for whatever reason, I was like, I want to do stand-up comedy. I don't even know how I knew that was a thing, but I think just watching the teachers laugh a little bit when and the jokes I was telling, I checked out a couple of like joke books from they were basically like Laffy Taffy rappers. Like that was the jokes. I did that and just said the jokes and I don't even remember any of them. It was just like it was always like puns like what's a dinosaur's favorite vegetable? The squash. It was like things like that. Just like but I remember just getting those laughs and then also like everyone being kind of like a little impressed that like I didn't just want to sing a song or I did something different.
Yeah.
that it kind of, I think it maybe just planted the seeds a little bit at that age.
Dude, that's awesome. And humor definitely is like the greatest form of medicine. So it's like it's so cool how you're able to utilize your story again to develop a connection with other people because you're doing so much more than just making people laugh. You're giving people the strength to fight another day, and you may not even realize it.
Yeah, and I think that's why it works because like I really appreciate you saying that. It's one of those things that like I am aware of in the back of my head, but it's also not why I do this, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Because there is no worse type of person, I think, in my brain than people who like I think your story should speak for itself. You see this a lot, like, it's a lot of online stuff. It's all grifty stuff where they're like, "I'm a life coach now. I'm gonna." Who the hell are you to like, like? No, it's not something where you just sit down and decide, "I'm going to inspire people. Here's the book I wrote that, and it's gonna." It's sort of a thing that happens. Like the way it like works is like you have a story to tell, and then you let people take what they want from that.
Mhm.
Because like it's not as inspiring for people to hear that, like, you know why I got into comedy? Because I'm kind of an attention whore. And I like how it makes me feel when people laugh. Like it's very fulfilling for my soul to like know that like, okay, I'm the most popular guy in this room right now. My endorphins are firing because people are laughing. Now, if people get something out of it that's deeper than that, that's
Right.
amazing. And I don't take that for granted. But I'm
Mhm.
not going on stage going, man, these people are gonna be better people once they see this. No, man, I like getting laughs and getting paid. Like the other stuff is bonus.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I think too, a lot of that probably comes from growing up, people before the comedy kind of seeing the disability, what was missing, what was different, right? But
Mhm.
now when you go on stage, they don't see that. They see you for who you are, which is a comedian, right? And I think that's what
Yeah.
kind of helps with I think that's where that mental shift kind of,
Yeah, and that's such a thing that's like people will try to often like if they're gonna be haters, they want to be like, oh, they're only laughing because he has a disability. They only feel bad for him. You don't know people if you think that's the case. People are assholes just inherently. Now, my disability gets me a foot in the door because it is different. So I get 2, 3 minutes at the beginning of a set where people are going to pay attention more because it's something different. I'm not just a mid 40s straight white guy up there telling jokes. There's a billion of us that do that. I have something different, so I'm at least going to get oh, okay. What is this? I'm going to pay attention. If you think people are going to fake laugh for an hour, you are out of your mind. People are not that nice. They just aren't. If I'm bad after 3 minutes, that crowd has turned on me. They don't care how disabled I am. They don't care if it's my last day on earth and this was my dying wish. They're like, boo, you suck. That's just how this works.
the second question I have for you is when you are building a joke about your life, how do you know the difference between this is funny and this is too honest, but I'm saying it anyway?
Um, it kind of ties in together. Again, it's part of like just doing this a long time. It's sort of natural. Like, I think people like crowds love to feel like they're getting to know you on like a deeper level. That's why AGT is such a great show. It's not just a talent show because you can find billions of acts that are just good at something and do a show and that would be entertaining. But why AGT really connects is that like they also do those video packages and you get to talk about the real stuff. And people joke and say it's America's Got Backstories, but those backstories for a lot of people they connect. Like people have had parents that have died or have gone through traumatic thing. Like that's why it connects. It's not just about, oh, this guy's good at jokes. It's he's also done this and this. This is why it matters. um I don't think there's a such thing as being too honest on stage. It just has to be funny.
Mhm.
um you can be as honest or you can just, it can be all bullshit too. Like nothing has to be real, but it has to come, even if you're lying, it has to be from a genuine place, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, the only stuff that I'm ever worried about being too honest, it's never anything about me. It's anything that involves my loved ones. Um, there's going to be some comics that you would talk to that would say nothing's off limits. I'll talk about, my wife, my mom, my whatever. I'll say whatever I want because I thought of this, because the art's too important. Now, my marriage is more important than my art, so my wife has a great sense of humor. She is awesome. But any joke I'm going to tell about her on stage, I run it by her. And I think I've only ever had one joke where she's told me that it made her feel a little like, I don't know if I love this.
Mhm.
And I'll tell some ridiculous things about her. I right now I've been telling jokes about how disgusting I find her because she has arms. Like that, like that's the joke. Like I'm kind of just basically playing off the like,
Yeah.
oh God, how do you just like not knock shit over all day with those? Like, so it's not like I'm just telling like fluff jokes about her, and she has a great sense of humor, but I will always check with her. And my son, he turns 3 in a couple weeks, so he's not really old enough to answer himself. But the same thing, I run jokes by her about him because like at the end of the day, I never want, even if they're funny and even if it's based on honesty, if it hurts people I love, it's bad jokes to me.
Mhm.
And so that's how I kind of gauge it. It's about myself. If I think it's funny, I'll tell the joke. I don't think that, and then you learn pretty quick if like, okay, maybe in that form that's too honest because it didn't get a laugh. It got a or a then that's how you know. That's the crazy thing about comedy. You have to try it. You can have an idea just from experience of what might work, but you don't really know until you get up there and go, here it is. What do you think?
Yeah, it's all trial and error.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary.
Oh, I bet. Especially like when you enter it the first time and then you bomb it like you said on your first audition, right? All the kind of things like that
Yeah, yeah.
happen.
Comedy is insane because like it's the only art form like this, like performance that I know of that the only way to get good at it is you have to be vulnerable in front of real people. If you want to learn the guitar, you can lock yourself in your room for 10,000 hours, never let a single soul ever hear you play it, and you'll know you're good before you ever unleash it into the world. You can't do that with jokes. You can write and write and write and practice in front of your mirror and get the wording down and the timing down. You don't know if it's funny until you go in front of people who have no reason to love you. Like that's why it's scary. Like making people laugh who don't have to care about you is why it's so tough. That's why when people are like, "Well, I'm the funny guy in the office." Yeah, but they already kind of like you. I'm really funny at family parties. Your family loves you already. Try to go to again. I use that as an example a lot. Go to the dive bar for 3 drunks in Iowa who don't know it's comedy night. Make them laugh when they don't give a shit about you. Like that's how you know it's funny.
What is the funniest part about being a comedian that people outside of comedy do not understand? I'm very fascinated with this question.
How boring we all actually are. I'm not gonna, I'm saying all a little painting with a broad brush there, but comedian like people think if you're like a good comedian and great on stage that you must be like whoa 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 whoa. We are some of the dullest motherfuckers on the planet. It's wild. Like so my wife is a teacher. That's what she does for a living. And a lot of her coworkers knew who I was from AGT because she was like going to all the tapings and all that. So like they were aware. They knew that they had only seen me in this context of being on TV in front of 10 to 15 million people,
Yeah.
being like just like, whoa, great. So they were under this assumption that I'm just that all the time. And so the amount of disappointing looks I would get from her coworkers the first time they met me when I'm just like hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. My name's Ryan. They're like, this isn't funny at all. And I was like, yeah, if I was funny all the time, my wife would kill me and no jury would convict her because that would be the worst thing you could do to a person. So like, yeah, like it's very outside of the finished product on stage, a lot of the comedy business is dull, man. It's just it's a lot of just being in airports and being in hotels and learning to edit videos and figure out social media network. It's pretty boring. It just the end product is really cool and interesting.
Yeah, it's the process that's very boring. It's not as interesting.
Exactly.
What is the biggest difference between Ryan off stage and Ryan with a microphone?
Oh, Ryan with a microphone is way more entertaining. It's I'm a pretty charismatic guy otherwise,
Yeah.
but man, like we talked about it earlier. Ryan offstage wants to talk way more about nerd stuff and things like that than I I love comedy because when I'm not doing comedy, I don't talk about comedy very often.
Yeah.
It's I think that's the biggest difference is how I don't know disconnected I am when I'm not at work. And I don't say that as like a I don't care type of way, but just like as I mentioned before, like I don't need this the same way other people do for my soul, you know?
Mhm.
So I think that's the biggest difference is just how I'm a normal dude who just likes normal dude stuff and just enjoys I don't know, like in this context this is fun. I love talking shop. I love talking, but the second this interview is over, I'm gonna go pick up my son and hope he took a nap at school so that he's not a real jerk tonight and figure out what we're doing for dinner. Like that's the big difference is that like there's a switch for being on and being off. And if you see me at a comedy club, that's genuine. That's me too. That I'm not faking it.
Yeah,
But that's not me if you see me at the grocery store. Those are different people because it's different circumstances about what you got to do.
of
I'm not
course.
in the grocery store going, wow, 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 wow. It's like, no, I'm buying eggs
Yeah.
because we need eggs. That's
You-
what it is.
you're not like driving around with your window down telling jokes.
Exactly. It's that's the difference. And again, we're uh one of my acting teachers in college, she always said this. She's like, we are all things. And I think that's like an important thing to know. It's like I am a very energetic, funny stand-up comedian, and I'm also a very boring dad, and I'm also a very annoying son to my mother. And we're all things.
Was there a backstage moment on AGT that people at home never saw, but you will never forget?
Um, Again, probably not specific moments, but man, hanging out with Terry Crews is so fun. Like as nice of a dude as he seems on TV,
Yeah.
I can assure you he's 1,000 times nicer as a person. He
Wow.
is just such a charismatic, fun dude. And like we got along great. Like he's so good at his job. He is so good at being the host because he's very personable. But AGT, he has to interview everybody. And a lot of the acts, super talented, they're not necessarily good talkers.
Mhm.
And sometimes not even their fault. Sometimes English might not be their first language, so they're not comfortable in that. They might be 10-year-old singing prodigies. You're think of back when you were 10. You're not like under those lights. Like that's
That's a
scary
lot of pressure.
to
Yeah.
do that. So he always liked me because he can get things out of people because he's just really good at his job.
Mhm.
But for me, he didn't have to do that because I also know how to talk like this. So we just got to have so much fun. I would try to mess with him on camera as much as I could. They didn't air this part, but on the judge cuts, which was still pre-taped, I don't think they even do judge cuts anymore. But it's the second round. It's the last pre-tape before the live shows. um, they kind of have you do this little like interview right before you go on stage, where you kind of come into the camera and Terry's hyping you up right before you go out there or whatever. And so you kind of walk in the frame when they say action, and then Terry's like, Ryan, you made it. And I was like, Terry, you did too. And he was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, I didn't want to be the one to tell you this, but you almost didn't make it through to the next round because this was his very first year. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I heard they were going to call Tyra again. And he was
Oh,
like,
that's
what? So
awesome.
he was like, oh my God, what? And then like we filmed the rest of the interview. And then after the second we finished, he was like, dude, that was amazing. You're so fun. So like just moments like that, just getting to hang out. Like again, I'll never claim that we're best friends, but the fact that like Terry Crews and I are buddies is like
Yeah.
such a cool thing, man, that like me 10 years ago could have never fathomed.
Dude, that was so cool. And he seems like a very genuine guy too, it's, especially like what I've seen other people talk about him. How did your life change after AGT aired?
I mean, it's night and day. It's one of the last shows that like it's overnight. That's kind of how like the Tonight Show used to be for comedians, like stuff like that. You in the past, like you do good on Tonight Show. It's, you know, off and running. Late night just doesn't have that same umph that it used to. There's just too much access to, YouTube and TikTok and Instagram Reels and all this that like you can see comics that way.
Mhm.
But AGT is still one of those shows where, every Tuesday night families sit down together and watch the show. And I wish I had been recording it. So it's a very real surreal feeling. My audition was filmed in March, and Judge Cuts was filmed in April. So obviously I knew how I did. I knew how
Right.
it went. But the show doesn't even start airing until late May, early June. So you have this weird time frame of like 2, 3 months where your life is going to change, but you can't talk about it yet because there's very strict NDA. You can't
Of course.
spoil the results, anything like that. So your life just kind of keeps going on as it does, and I'm still doing my shows here and there. You can tell people, hey, I'm going to be on AGT this year. Like you can kind of do that, but you can't say anything.
You can advertise, you just can't say like what's really
Right,
happening.
how it went, what any of that. I had to sit my mom down because my mom was a big part of all the taping. She was there for all that. And I had to really sit her down and be like, Mom, I know that you're in like the biggest proud mom moment. You have to keep your mouth shut. Like they will not air this if you blab your mouth. Like you have to like not be uh uh a mom like this.
Yeah.
You have to just be cool. And to her credit, she did. Um, but yeah, just like my thing aired, my episode airs. I was June 4th of 2019. I was the second week of that, and I had my computer up. And I'm at my sister's house, or at her apartment at the time. We're just watching it live. My thing airs, and the second it goes to commercial right after my set, my computer shuts down because of all the notification. I had an old crappy laptop at that time. All of the notifications of like I should have turned this stuff off before, but like all the comments and friend requests and likes and on all the Instagram and like my phone like for 12 straight hours just kept going. And
Wow.
it's such a crazy thing because it's like it's so sudden. It's just so sudden. And then like, the next day getting I was living in Indianapolis at the time, getting recognized around just getting stopped for pictures and telling you how great you're doing. Like it was surreal because that was not happening before that day.
Right. Dude, that is like so cool to go from like I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I don't want to ask that question. But dude,
We, we,
that's
we,
like
we can do a second one later. We'll do a second one of
yeah,
these
we
some
can
other
do it.
time.
Yeah, we can do another one later. That'd maybe like a Christmas special. Dude, that'd be kind of cool.
There we go. Perfect.
But the last question is, did you have any backstage routines, prayers, pep talks, or habits before performing? Now, this one's one of
Honestly,
my favorite questions.
I wish I had a better answer for you. I don't.
Okay.
Maybe this is the routine that's always worked for me. Um, I do much better the less I think about it right before I go on stage. I think I would rather be I'm always professional, I'm always where I need to be, but I don't need an hour of quiet time. I don't need to listen to a certain song or any of that. Like some of my best sets ever have been my plane was delayed. I finally got to the venue. literally as I walked in the building, I hear, and here's your headliner, Ryan Niemiller, rush on stage before I could even think about it. I'm so sweaty and smell like the plane. And then the show is just great because you're just in the moment.
Right.
Um, my routine is just, man, just exist. Just you know, I'm touring with my buddy Samuel J. Comro right now. So like, we're really good friends. So like we're just sitting around talking. Like I'm checking sports scores. I'm FaceTiming with my son. Like just whatever needs to be done.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to do regular, like, because the more I like, that was one thing I was scared about with AGT because like you can't just wing it. There is certain things like that they make you very much know what your set's gonna be. You have to be Your timing has to be perfect because it's live television and they have commercials and stuff they got to do. You can't mess with it. So that was really like being that focused. That's why I got nervous. I was nervous about screwing up, not the performance, but like missing my time or saying something I wasn't supposed to. Because in the moment, it made sense to say fuck, and you can't do that on television.
Yeah.
But yeah, but my routine is just, man, I'm checking sports scores on the ESPN app. I'm chilling. It keeps me again grounded. That's a very important thing to me, is
Mhm.
not to let my highs get too high, my lows get too low. I just kind of want to be in the moment, and that way when I get on stage, I'm not heightened, I'm not overhyped, I'm not underhyped. We're coming out and here we go.
Dude, that's awesome. Now, for anyone who is coming across you for the first time, I mean, you're a pretty well-known guy as it is. But for someone coming across you for the first time, please feel free. How can they find you? What is it that you're working on? Anything and everything you want them to know.
Okay, so all my social media is at Cripple Threat 8. And that's the number 8 because there was 7 before me, but I've risen to power. Cripplethreat.com is my website. All my touring dates are there. Like I said, a lot of what I'm doing touring now is with Samuel J. Comro, another individual with disabilities. He has Tourette's. He was a finalist on AGT the year before me. It's a real fun show. We co-headline it. We do a really fun Q&A at the end, which is always gets unhinged. It's a lot of fun. Um, can do that. Follow me on just all kinds of stuff. That's the big stuff. I'm working on a YouTube channel where I do a lot of sports cards openings and reviews. That's something I'm just passionate about, and I think there is room in that space for more humor.
Yeah.
A lot of that space, it's very interesting, but everyone's the same kind of guy. It's always the let's go, and it's like the cards are the start. I think there's like a room to just be funny about it as well. So I'm working on that. It's gonna be called Cripple Threat Cards. So follow me on that. And yeah, the big thing is if you ever see me, just say hi. That's kind of who I am. I'm a very approachable person, and it makes me feel good about myself. So do that.
Yeah, that's awesome, brother. And for the audience listening as well, all of the links will be within the description as well. And please comment down below where you felt less alone while tuning into today's episode. This is Become the Victor, where we turn trials into triumph. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And as always, remember, grow through what you go through. Much love.